Wow, I can't believe it's already been a year since I've been at this secret laboratory. It's the only place where we were sure would be the perfect hideout from the wrath of Amanda Waller. And not only that, but these devices are what we need to signal the aliens. Yes, so when do you think they'll be here? They should be arriving at 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, welcome back to Earth, space pals! Except for you, Dark Overlord. You're not my space pal. You can go fuck yourself.
Why the fuck did we come back here?
It's because the humans need our help. And what makes you humans think we'll help you? Because not only is the entire planet on the line, this entire universe is in danger. And it just so happens that Amanda Waller expected the aliens to get in the way of her plans. However, she only had one alien in mind. She was only concerned about Galactus? If by Galactus you mean that giant cloud who thinks it is Galactus, then no.
This planet is so good. I like this planet so much. It's so tasty. I don't care if I'm on a diet. No one tells me what to do. I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna eat this planet.
The almighty, all-powerful alien I am talking about is Parallax. Oh yeah, I've invited him as a co-host every now and then. But he hasn't been returning my calls lately. That is because Amanda Waller set up a shield that's been keeping him away from the planet. But little did she know that force field had a tiny crack, and that tiny crack happened to be big enough for these aliens to slip in and out.
I thought the reason for the force field was that all of you Earthlings were being dickheads, just like you, Graviton.
I'm not a dickhead to everyone, okay? Just superheroes and you.
Whatever.
Now, we must get along. We need to set aside our differences for a greater cause, and that cause is the ending of all of life as we know it, your lives and ours. So we are in, Papa Midnight. We will join your forces. Thank you, but we need more reinforcements. Well, it just so happens that we were not the only ones in space who got your signal.
We got your signal too.
Well, look who decided to come back to this planet after giving up on it.
Yeah, we know. We gave up on this planet and screwed off. But after hearing your signal, we decided that we would come back temporarily to take care of Amanda Waller. Yeah, her reign of terror has got to end.
That is the spirit, gentlemen. Now, there are many other supervillains besides us who are hiding from Amanda Waller, and we need to find them and recruit them for their cause. Right then, let's go out there and do it. Yes, but while you guys are out doing your little search parties, I've still got one movie left to review before the possible Armageddon. But I'm not gonna like my co-host for this final hurrah.
That means it's me!
your final movie review, and you decided to do it with me, huh? Funny how life works out that way.
Yeah, I know, Overlord. Oh well. We had a deal, and I have to stick to it. And that deal was that whenever there's a space movie, I have to review it with you.
And so, this is what brings you and me together. Star Trek Beyond. Kind of ironic, the first time you ever review anything that has to do with Star Trek. I mean, this larger-than-life franchise that's been going on for a very long time. Lots and lots of movies. And now, when you finally start talking about it, you're done, you're over, you're almost kaput.
Yeah, I see the irony there, I really do. You don't need to rub my face in it. So yes, Star Trek Beyond, the third installment of the Star Trek reboot series. Now, this was a reboot series that stood out from the crowd, because usually when you have reboots to franchises, you just start over and you don't say anything about it within the movie. You just start fresh. You have no one acknowledge it. You just go from there. Like, no one say anything. Just freaking start over, okay? The latest example of that, of course, was Ghostbusters. But when it came to Star Trek rebooting back in 2009, it stood out from the crowd because this was a reboot that actually acknowledged that it was rebooting by having an in-universe explanation for everything being new and different and starting all over again. Time travel. And it's actually what influenced other franchises to do the same, such as X-Men and Terminator. So this franchise had that unique distinction. And so they did their best to explore that concept as much as possible by somehow managing to do a reboot and a continuation at the same time, because of old Spock time traveling from the older franchise into this newer one, thus creating an alternate franchise timeline. But with this concept, there also came a lot of inevitable conflicts and problems that would probably arise with that. Because by starting all over again, in an alternate timeline now, you're tempted to either explore new ideas and concepts, or repeat previous events from the franchise, because this would be modern films, and so you would have the opportunity to see how the old events would look in this new timeline.
Yeah, and that was something that this franchise kind of struggled with a little bit, especially with the second installment of this new series.
Yeah, with the first of this new series, Star Trek, the 2009 movie, was very much a greatly utilized opportunity of taking what you're used to in the previous Star Trek timeline, which was the endeavors of the original Enterprise crew, but now was the chance to reintroduce all of that and play with those ideas and do things new with those ideas that you're so used to. By taking everything and turning it on its head. We're so used to Kirk and Spock being the bestest of buddies of friends ever could have, but in this new franchise, they fucking hate each other at first. They despise each other. Like Scotty had a completely different job, being at this snow base where his only friends were a Tribble and a little Coral Man, and that was it. Deep Roy isn't enough, okay? And you've also got Uhura, who also hates Kirk's guts and is also banging Spock. And you've also got Kirk being a deadbeat asshole at first. And so all of these things were put there to show a contrast from the original series. But what was interesting about it was by seeing what had to be done to transform all of this stuff into what you're used to. It was reimagining all of the classic stuff as completely different stuff, but getting to see that evolution into what you know that crew more to be. But by having the change be fully completed by the end of that first movie, where do you go from there? And that was the problem that this franchise had. Do they keep exploring unpaved waters? Or, since this is an alternate reality of events that we've already seen, should we take this as an opportunity to see those events turn out in this new reality? To see how things would be different and how things would be the same. And so that was the direction that the second film took. Take this particular event that happened in the Star Trek lore that just about everyone knows. In fact, so many people know this that whenever you think of Star Trek, this might be one of the first things you think of. And that was Wrath of Khan. They decided, you know what, since that's the thing that everybody knows, even non-Trek fans know about Wrath of Khan, let's redo that film now that we have the chance with this rebooted continuity. And it seems like the result was lackluster, because not a lot of people really like what happened with that film. Now, me personally, I thought it was an exhilarating ride, and I didn't mind that we were retreading pre-tread waters, because back then, I kind of thought that that was the whole point of this new film series, to recreate all of these classic events in a modern setting, with new technology in filmmaking, to see what they would look like now. But now that it's been 3 years since we've had Star Trek Into Darkness, I realized that, you know what, there might have been something else they could have done. And that is what this movie does. What they realized that they probably should have done in the first place. Not take advantage of revisiting this crew just to repeat all of the classic stories again. No, the point was to see new adventures with this old crew. To see how they would deal with new stuff that they never dealt with previously.
Now, hold on there, Gravy. Hold on. They don't seem to be done repeating old themes quite just yet.
I know what you're talking about, Overlord. You're talking about how this movie is repeating themes that the third movie of the previous franchise did. I know you're talking about that. And to that I say, you know, that's fine. That's fine if they want to keep going that way. They want to keep honoring the previous franchise, because with both franchises you have the first one, and I think that's really the only one that doesn't attempt to actually repeat themes from the first franchise. I don't think that's what they were doing there, but they started doing the mirroring of the previous franchise with the second one. Because with that second one, they had Khan as the villain doing his whole space seed plot with his fallen brethren and trying to protect them and trying to exact his revenge. And one of the main characters friggin' dies and sacrifices himself. And one of the characters yells out Khan real loud. And there's the involvement of Dr. Carol Marcus. You've got all that in there, but I think the franchise has realized something. They don't have to stop mirroring the original franchise. They just need to be less blatant about it. They need to be more subtle with their parallels. And that's what they do with this movie. Because in the original franchise, you had The Search for Spock as your third film. And that film involved the Enterprise ship destroyed in a crash landing on this desolate planet. And the crew was stranded on this planet with a team of evil-ass aliens who are trying to apprehend them. However, they don't actually repeat things verbatim this time. They introduce new characters who only mirror the previous ones. They're not actually those previous characters. Like how in Into Darkness, you could have just had a character that paralleled with Khan instead of flat out doing Khan. They keep themselves from actually redoing Krug. Instead, we have a new alien who is only similar to Krug. Heimdall, also known as Dark Tower Guy, also known as a bunch of animal voices in all the recent Disney animated films, also known as Idris Elba, also known as Crawl.
Crawl.
What's wrong with Crawl?
It sounds like they looked into a book of unused Star Trek villain names and found that as the last one that would be super obvious to use. Crawl.
Yeah, but at the same time, is that not the point? They're trying to go for a classic Star Trek sounding name. But those are pretty much where the parallels end between this movie and Search for Spock. The previous epic sacrifice death had already been undone by the end of Into Darkness. That was already taken care of. You got the triple blood inside of Kirk and you're all hunky-dory now. You're good. But as stupid as that stupidly was, it meant that we did not have to repeat that in this movie. We could tell a new story. Other things have changed too, not just the villain and his race, which we will get more into later, but also the planet itself. This is not Genesis! This is a new planet. Well, to be fair, that planet was new, and this one is technically older since, we're not up to the events of that original franchise, since that happened way later, chronologically, than where we are at right now. But you know what I'm saying, a new planet to this lore, I mean. This is an undiscovered planet, where a crew of alien terrorists... is it okay that I say terrorist? Is that an okay thing to say?
I'm not the right person to ask about that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So anyway, so these intergalactic, intergalactic terrorists are trying to lure Starfleet ships into their planet to take them prisoner, and also to take a MacGuffin.
Up, first sign of laziness, resorting to a MacGuffin.
Now, I know that the MacGuffin has gotten a lot of stigma for being a crutch for storytelling, but this MacGuffin has a particular purpose. This MacGuffin represents what this supervillain is all about. You see, the perfect villain is the one who is an antithesis of the overall positive ideals that the main characters are going for. And of course, what is the biggest ideal when it comes to Star Trek?
Peace on Earth?
Exactly. Now, I know as full-fledged supervillains, such as you and me, we are not all about this world peace mumbo-a-jumbo, and the ones that are like, yeah, we want world peace, but we're gonna do fucked up shit for it. But what I'm getting at here is that is what Star Trek is all about. That is why it was made in the first place. It was the quintessential optimist show. painting a future where everything was perfect with Earth. Everything was all peace and love. There were no conflicts anymore between countries. Everything was all hunky-dory when it came to Earth itself. And so now that Earth was made this perfect utopian society, it was time to spread that peace to other planets where there was not peace at this point, helping the rest of the universe.
Lovey-dovey bullshit crap. This is why, when it came to Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and motherfucking Voyager and whatever the hell that Scott Bakula thing was, it was time to mix it up a bit with dark themes, with chaos.
But this was what Star Trek was all about, though, was the perfection with Earth, and so you had to go to other galaxies and other planets for the legitimate conflict. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, such as you, find the idea of this perfect society impossible, and just fucking stupid and boring. But by doing that, you have the chance to have some awesome villains who have those ideals, who realize that it's not possible to have full-on, complete, utter peace, that fucking hate that idea. Their ideals are that we need conflict between different sides. We need that to get better. And the scary thing about that, and the reason why I love supervillainy, is that the best villain is the one where you're afraid of agreeing with them, even though you tend to a little bit. And that's what's going on with this villain, is that you kind of see his points a little bit. Because when you look at our history in real life, you realize, wait a minute, before World War II, America was in a goddamn depression. And it wasn't until after World War II where we got out of that depression, because we got all productive and became more hardworking and more inspired when we got involved with World War II. And so once the war was done, everything was all hunky-dory again for America. I mean, we did horrible things, yes, there was that horrible things. Why am I talking about America as if I'm one of them? I'm Canadian, but you get what I'm saying. He does have a point about conflict being beneficial for society overall, and that's why he wants to make more conflicts happen. He wants the world to go back to the way it previously was. Let's go back to the parallels of this film and how it differs from the third film of the previous franchise. Because in that one, of course, you have the crew being stranded on this planet with their enemies. However, it was a very manageable crew. Because in the famous trilogy of Star Trek films, which weirdly starts with 2 instead of 1, you have 2, 3, 4. And with 3 and 4 specifically, those only have the main characters as the whole crew. Just them, just the main characters, no one else. So by having just them as the whole crew, it's very easy to keep track of them. Very, very, very easy. But you don't have that luxury in this film. You don't have the benefit of just having a few characters stranded on this planet. You have a whole giant crew, and this crew has hundreds and hundreds of people. Because even though it has probably been touched on before of how big each Starfleet ship is with their crews, this movie is the first time in a long time where you really see how many people were in there, especially when it came to the prison scenes, because Krell has turned this planet into a prison planet, where he captures the entire Starfleet crew, except for a few key players. But the key players that he does have in this prison are Uhura, Sulu, and the little coral guy. Everyone else in the crew has split up. Yes, they have gone the Empire Strikes Back route at doing this, where you split the characters up and they have to find each other again in their own subplots, in their own miniature stories about having to deal with this planet. The first faction is the no-brainer, of course, when it comes to Star Trek pairings of particular characters.
Why? I don't give a fuck about them meeting each other.
Well, maybe not to you, a casual Star Trek viewer, but to the die-hard fans, they know that the original series had a Trinity, a trifecta of main characters, a trio, and that, of course, was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. It was those three against the world, and it was all about how they interacted with each other. It was all about their relationship, and with this triad, Kirk and McCoy were the bestest of friends. Kirk and Spock were a little bumpy at first, but eventually became the bestest of friends. But when it came to the last combination of these three, Spock and McCoy, that was super duper bumpy, extremely bumpy. There was a constant conflict with that, and even though it didn't take as much time to improve like the Kirk-Spock relationship, it was still a relationship that took a while to eventually turn into a brotherhood, to the point where Spock decided that he was going to crash for a couple of days up inside of McCoy's brain. You know, like being all like, "Hey Spock, how's it going? Do you mind if I stay in your brain for a little bit, you know, because I lost my body recently, so I'm just gonna have my mind be in your mind, alright? You don't mind the mental damage, right? Alright, I'm just gonna get up in there. There, I'm up in your brain now. Best of buddies."
Ha! So I guess that's really important to the original franchise.
Yeah, but we didn't really see much of that trifecta in this new franchise because it seems like Uhura took the place of McCoy as the main three characters. And with this film, she's still extremely important, of course, not less important than her previous appearances, but because of that, we never really got much interaction between Spock and McCoy. Sure, every now and then for McCoy to spout his assholiness to Spock's race, but it was only every now and then with a few snippets here and there. That was never going to be enough. No, we need to get these two characters in a room together, one-on-one, cut off from society, just mano a mano for some good old-fashioned banter between these two characters. And that's what they did with this movie by having them stranded on the planet together. And this gave the chance for Spock to reveal all of his problems. He's got a lot of problems in this movie. And even though he has learned that he should embrace his human side and be more emotional instead of logical, because you know that's his catchphrase, of course, illogical, he needs to be logical. Even though he has all that, he still can't let go of that way of thinking, of attempting to be void of all emotions because his race deems them useless. And so he tries to hide all of his problems, but now that he's been injured and stabbed in the freaking chest, he realizes he's probably only got a little bit to live. And he especially realizes that when he finds out that himself from the freaking future is dead.
Ah, you just decided to drop that bombshell real quick, didn't you?
well, it's better to just let it all drop now instead of waiting till it was too late, like Spock decided to do because he realized since he's probably gonna die on this planet, he might as well just spout it all to McCoy, and as a result, becomes a little closer to him, and probably close enough where they could become good friends like in the original franchise. They don't necessarily have to bunk together in the same brain like last time, but no, this could have sufficed by revealing stuff to each other. So that's the first faction that's on the planet. The other faction is one single person. And that one single person is Scotty. Yes, Scotty is the only character who's doing it solo. He's Tom Hanks, and he doesn't even have a Wilson. Yes, his Wilson is in that prison, you know, the little coral guy. So what's Scotty gonna do all by his lonesome? Well, he's gonna have to deal with a bunch of evil assholes. Because guess what? Krawl's crew is not the only group of evil aliens that's on the ship. No, there's a bunch of escapees from the prison. And a group of those refugees have banded together to give Scotty some shit. But someone saves Scotty from that shit. And that person is Jayla.
Jayla? What's Jayla doing in this movie? Isn't she too busy making Mystique into a hero?
No, not Jayla. Jayla.
Oh, that's right, from the block.
No, not J-Lo. Jayla.
I give up.
Jayla is an ally. She's fully on their side and is completely aware of what's all going on. Her story arc isn't that she needs to trust that the crew is on her side. No, she knows that they're on her side. Her story arc is that she needs to trust the crew to be able to go up against this evil supervillain. That is her arc, to trust them, to be a team player, because she's so used to being on her own, listening to the Beastie Boys on this ship that may or may not be from the era that Enterprise focused on. I'm still not completely sure about that right there. So the point is that Jayla is not the archetype of the supposed ally of the crew that winds up being a traitor and working for the villains. No, she is not like that.
Yeah, she's not like Savick from the original franchise.
Well, Savick wasn't the one that betrayed them. No, that was a different Vulcan lady who was a protege of Spock. That was a different lady. And probably the reason why it was a different Vulcan lady was because we spent so much time with Savick in the previous films that it felt like a stab in the back if she turned out to be a villain the whole time or eventually became a villain. So instead, they made a new character. And here, since I feel that the new direction for this series is to parallel the older series without flat out redoing the older series, I think that she might be the new Savick. I think Jayla might be the new Savick. Instead of just reintroducing Savick all over again, they have a parallel character to Savick. And plus, there's probably low chances of Savick surviving that destruction of Vulcan. I mean, who's to say which Vulcans survived that destruction and which ones didn't? But it's kind of slim that she was one of those who survived that. I mean, what are the odds that she's one of the very few Vulcans who survived that?
So if she's Savick, then who is the fake ally that betrays the crew? Since you always have to have that somewhere.
Well, that character is with the final faction that's stranded on the planet. And that faction is our main faction. That's the one that has Kirk and has the character who inevitably is going to betray them. And it also has
What? You seem really sad all of a sudden.
You know, Chekhov, played by Anton Yelchin. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you mean that?
Yeah, I'm still sad, young talent and gone too soon, and it's really sad. I can't help but think about that because while doing this, because he's there for a lot of the movie. He has a lot to do in this movie, and it's really sad because he finally gets a lot to do in the movie, even though it's not a character arc, particularly. It's not particularly a character arc, but he does get quite a lot to do, and it makes it sadder about what happened in real life with him, but at the same time, it does make me a little happy that at least he got a beefier role this time. I mean, he didn't get underutilized too much. He got used quite a lot as Captain Kirk's right hand man. That's probably a really good way of showing him in this franchise. Being the loyal guy who's got the captain's back, who's trusty and loyal and willing to do anything for the captain, but also gives the captain some conscience, a conscience, and helps the captain out with dealing with this traitor, with this lady who's ambushing them because she's the lady who lured them in here, and then when they got the bait, she revealed herself as working for the bad guys, and she's after the MacGuffin. And that's what I have to say about Anton Yelchin. That's what I have to say about him. And the last time we get to see Anton is when he's hanging out with this lady, this weird mollusk-looking lady. Looks kind of like a nautilus, like a mollusk. She looks like a mollusk or a snail, and it's like good for you, Chekhov. Good for you. It's like socializing, trying to get it on with this mollusk lady, and it's like, and I heard that when they're gonna make the fourth film, the plan is to not recast the character, and I think that's good. I think that's the right way to do this. Because he's irreplaceable at this point. Like if it was a contract dispute thing, then yeah, sure, whatever. They probably would have had to. If it was a contract thing, that's what happened with War Machine. But this was quite different. This was quite different thing, and because of the situation, because of what happened, it might have been in poor taste to be like, oh, let's just replace the actor. Like the circumstances, I think it's better to give the character a send off, and a very very dignified send off. They should probably do it. Don't kill him off. I do hear that they're seeing that as a possibility for Chekhov, is to kill him off, but I feel like that's just making the situation sadder than it has to be. I really do. I feel like we don't need this to be any more sadder than it already is. So instead of killing off, I think they should just give him a send off. They should just give an explanation, and just leave it at that. Give the character some really good dignity, and I know it would also be dignity if they sent him off in the way of killing him off with maybe like a noble sacrifice type thing, but but it would still make this sadder than it has to be. So I think that, you know what, let's just have his story arc end where in the next film they say that he went to live on a planet with the mollusk lady. He's living on the planet with the mollusk lady, and they have a shop together. They have a shop. They have this little store where they're selling, you know, stuff that Russians like dolls inside of dolls inside of dolls, and you also got your bears and unicycles. And so that's what I think you should do there. And I know I'm joking, but you know, comedy is the way is good medicine. You know, it's a good medicine. So that's what I'm saying here, and that's why I'm still keeping the kooky voice, even though I'm saying some heavy stuff right now. And so also they also gave him a sent off right at the end there. You know, it's like in love and memory of Leonard Nimoy. And that's already sad in itself, you know, because his death actually affected this movie quite a lot, you know, and they had to, you know, also give him some dignity too. But since this was extremely unexpected and really sad that it happened with Anton, you know, it's like with Leonard Nimoy's send-off, they said, in loving memory of Leonard Nimoy. But then when they did Anton Yelchin's send-off, it was for Anton, and it's always more powerful when it's the first name, just the first name, you know, and I think that's what they were going with that for that. It was, you know, like it was already sad enough with Leonard Nimoy, but Anton Yelchin, he was close to them. He was very close. So that's why he got the one single first name, because it was more personal. It was more personal, and it was more, more sincere. And also the movie gave some silence for him, and so they gave a moment of silence, you know, and then as soon as the silence was over, you got to hear Rihanna. Sing her song. Goodbye, Anton. See you around, Anton.
Can we be funny again?
Why start now?
Not original at all. That's from SNL.
Fuck you, Dark Overlord.
Oh, good. Oh, God. Oh, man, that was somber and deep as all hell.
Yeah, but now we're done. Now we can move on to the other parts of this movie, which involve Kirk. Yes, as I said before, Kirk has to deal with this betrayer who is after the MacGuffin. And what the MacGuffin does has a lot to do with what this villain is all about. Because as I said before, this villain is all about the ideals of war being more effective than peace. And the way he's gonna do that war is by a doomsday device. And that's what he needs that MacGuffin for. By having the nanobots from Big Hero 6 be all pissed off as all hell and eating people. Just eating them right all willy-nilly. And that's what they do to one of the crew members. Oh God, all she was doing was hiding a MacGuffin for Kirk. That's all she was doing. Oh, she should have said no. She was like, wait a minute, I'm a random crew member who's not a main character. That means if I get involved with this plot, I'm sure to die. Fuck no, Kirk, fuck no. But maybe she did it because she's not a red shirt, and she assumed that she would be safe, but she wasn't. No one is safe from Kroll and his man-eating MacGuffin.
Well, except for the main crew,
Yeah, I know, and plus we already did that in the last movie. So anyway, the three small factions that were all split apart from each other slowly get all back together on this old ship that is apparently from the same era as Enterprise. Now, I'm not a Star Trek expert, I don't check the wiki every single goddamn day like some people to be like, oh, that's not accurate either, that's not accurate. So I'm not completely sure where these time periods line up, because since Enterprise takes place before the original series, it's the only one that isn't affected by the time change that happened in the 2009 film. So that's the only one that they can't reboot in this way, because it already happened. So because of that, I thought that it might have been a chance to explore some of that. I mean, I know there's that quick mention of Scott Bakula's character in the first film, but there was nothing other than that, just a reference, really, there. So I thought that this was sort of a missed opportunity to explore more of that. Like, maybe discover it's super ancient Scott Bakula. Like, I'm Scott Bakula. I'm old as all fuck. A man of a certain age wasn't renewed. Oh boy! But no, we didn't get any of that. Instead, I'm guessing what we got was the ship of a made-up crew that's said to be one of the first pioneering ships of Starfleet. Way back in the day, and by way back in the day, I mean still our future, but still the ancient past for them.
Yeah, it kind of felt like they were setting everyone up for disappointment by doing that, making this big discovery from the ancient past, and something that might have been like huge mind-blowing revelation and reference to previous Star Trek lore, when it turned out all to just be something that was made up, because it turns out that Krall isn't an alien.
Well, it depends on what you mean by that, because technically he's an alien because he's on a planet that he's not from, so...
Oh, you know what I friggin' mean!
Yes, I know what you mean. A non-human. Yes, it turns out he's not a non-human. He is a human. Yes, he is an earthling. Yes, it turns out that he and his crew used to all be humans. Normal human earthlings from Starfleet. That's why he still has that war mentality, because he's from back in the day where Starfleet was all about fighting other alien races. And even though Kirk's crew has done quite a few little bit of that, it's because they're doing it out of reluctance, and they're just doing it every now and then as a little bit of a smack at a uncooperating alien race. Like, hey, stop that, you alien race, stop being a dick, alright? I'm gonna smack you a little bit, alright? Smack. Now think about what you did. But that wasn't the case in the past. In the past, they were all about fighting alien races and getting blood and taking names and all of that harsh shit. So, as soon as Starfleet started changing their ways and getting all peaceful and making treaties and having peace with the other alien races, Balthazar didn't have any of that and decided to be fully devoted to bringing war back into the galaxy.
Took him a goddamn long time.
Yeah, it took him a few hundred years, but he had to find the right device, and the universe is so goddamn big, so I would buy that it took him a while, to get the resources and to get everything going, to get the gears going and get this project fully together, in time, so of course it took a long ass time. But what I'm wondering is, if this is a new character we're exploring here, where the fuck was he in the previous timeline? I guess he never found the MacGuffin in the previous timeline. So he was like, okay, screw it. I'm just gonna stay here on this planet, just take a nap for eternity and just stay here, just be bored on this planet. So that's probably what he did in that one. He probably spent all of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. He just spent all of those shows being bored on the planet. And I think, oh, I got nothing to do. I'm so bored. So bored doing nothing. I'm getting bed sores. God damn it. My butt hurts. But no, that's not what happened in this timeline. No, he's all productive and shit. Now, I don't want to complain too much about this revelation and that he's still a new character, because, keep in mind, that was kind of the fault of the last film, of Into Darkness, was that they tried so hard to do all this stretching and go all the way back to this pre-established character and redo him all over again. So I can see why they decided, no, let's not do that. Let's have a new villain this time around. It's just, if they were gonna do that, maybe not have this huge, exciting revelation to him that would make us think that he's a pre-established character. That's just my 2 cents.
And plus, isn't this a little bit of a repeat of Into Darkness? I mean, you've got 2 villains in a row who are both these enhanced humans instead of aliens.
Yeah, he is a little bit similar to Khan, in that they were both humans that were enhanced to be far more evolved and better than normal humans. But to be fair, Star Trek is chock full of alien villains. They got alien villains out the wazoo, so it doesn't hurt to have a little bit more variety than that. Explore other types of villains other than evil aliens. Why not have some humans? Have some humans be the villains. And I can understand it being Star Trek, you would think, wait a minute, I don't want just a normal human being to be our villain. No, he has to have a hook to him. And so they decided to give this guy a hook. And even though he is similar to Khan, he's enhanced, though, in a different way. Yes, because his enhancement is that he's able to live for a very long time. He's got this machine that somehow is able to make him live for a long ass time, to make him basically immortal, but it comes at a price. It makes him awfully deformed, makes him all deformed and shit. And so the remedy for this is to suck the life force out of other people, like humans, I guess, to make him more human-like, to bring him back from that ugliness, to make him no longer butt ugly as all hell, and make him more human-like again. Turn him back into sexy Idris Elba. Turn him back into that. And he does a little bit by the end, not completely. He's still deformed as all hell, but he doesn't completely go back to being fully normal. He's still a little bit of 1980s mask going on a little bit, he doesn't have Cher with him at the moment. And he's got a spunky Starfleet uniform, so now he's got his doomsday device all up and at him, which means he needs to set it off in a human society. Now, at first you might be thinking, oh great, he's going back to Earth. But no! Remember what the last film set up, even though we assumed that's what the first film set up, but it wouldn't be until the next film where that would be set up? The 5-year mission, where the crew would be completely dedicated to full-on space travel, just going throughout the cosmos and never going back to Earth until 5 years later. Just completely dedicated to exploring new races and new planets and making the Federation grow bigger and bigger. So they're nowhere near Earth right now. No, this is Star Trek. It's all about space, the final frontier. So let's stay in that final frontier. So if they're not going back to Earth, instead, they're going to a space station. Yes, explore those sci-fi concepts and stuff that in real life isn't too far away from utilizing. And one of the things that Earth is getting really close to, but no cigar at the moment, one of those things is space stations. Yes, cities in outer space. And this is a concept that this film explores with a space station that is a full-on giant-ass city. Yes, it's a full-on city where people actually live at. It's like a home away from home. And they decided, you know what, since this is in space, where we can control gravity and shit, let's not have this be exactly like Earth. No, that would be boring, alright? We already explored enough of Earth in the other two films. No, in this one, it's gonna be cities over cities over cities, where there's cities over here and then you look up and there's cities over there upside down. Or are you upside down and they're right side up? Who knows? It's a freaking space station. And Matt Parkman is there because he realized, wait a minute, this is an Abrams production. Why am I not involved with this project when Abrams is involved? I'm supposed to be involved in every single thing that has to do with Abrams. I need to get my ass into this franchise immediately. I didn't dilly-dally with Star Wars. I got up all in that real quick. I was the character that Graviton thought was the descendant of Porkins, but probably was not, because he has a different last name than Porkins, but his headcanon is that I am related to Porkins. But anyway, since I was in that, I deserve to be here too. So by golly, I am. Here I am Matt Parkman, and I'm going to be in this movie, being the security guard over this space station.
By the way, they probably should have chosen a different name.
Yeah, they decided to name the space station Yorktown. Do they not know what the main thing Yorktown is remembered for? It's known for being a battleground where there was this big-ass horrible battle, during the American Revolution. So I get that maybe there's some symbolism there that they were going for, but they probably weren't intending this to also be a battleground. So maybe they shouldn't have jinxed it. Maybe they should have called it something else instead of a place where a battle happened, so that you wouldn't have jinxed yourself. Because guess what? There was a battle, a fight between giant-ass ships amongst this giant space station, through the cities of the space station, through the right side up cities and the upside down cities, and underneath the cities and over the cities, all around the cities, just fully utilizing that this is the future. So just go all out with it.
Yeah, and like your third climactic battle, good God, this movie has like 17 different climaxes.
Yeah, it has quite a few. Just like in bed.
Ah, you went there, didn't you?
I saw the doorway and I took it. But yeah, this movie does have like multiple climaxes, because first you have the one that goes on at the prison base, where the crew is rescuing all of the captives from the prison onto this old danky old ass ship, this old piece of junk. And so that felt like a climax, what with Kirk on his good old-fashioned motorbike that is still futuristic to us. And so that was climax number 1. And then climax number 2 was where the evil ships were going up against this old danky-ass ship on their way to the space station. And they decided, a lot of people are giving us shit for that first trailer where we had Beastie Boys as the soundtrack. and we decided, you know what? Instead of being all defensive and doing what other movies do, where they try to avoid the stuff that makes the skeptics pissed off, we're just going to embrace it. We're going to embrace that choice of music. We're going to embrace the Beastie Boys by making them a plot device, making them actually have a role in this movie as a weapon against these evil nanobots from Big Hero 6. Yes, so they surf the waves of the nanobots, a huge giant ass wave, to the soundtrack of the Beastie Boys, to the music of the Beastie Boys. Sabotage. Sabotage.
It should have been Surfing USA.
That would have been too obvious. And plus, it wouldn't have been as funny to call it classical music.
That's not the kind of classical music I like. The kind of classical music I like is I Like Big Butts.
Yes, I know, Futurama reference. But anyway, so that's the second climax. And the third one is the ship battle that's within the space station. It's within all of these cities, causing a huge big-ass muck.
But we're still not done yet. We've got a fourth one.
Yeah, and climax numero 4 is where we have the one-on-one fight between Kirk and Krall, who used to be Balthazar, and so they go on their obligatory speech-off against each other about their conflicting ideals so they can get the point across about what this movie's all about. And then Kirk sends Krall blasting off to space again, because guess what? Krall's like, wait a minute, whoops, I had the MacGuffin with me, which means that I'm gonna have that good old-fashioned type villain ending, where the thing that kills me is the thing I was gonna use to kill everybody else. Ooh, irony! And so as the nanobots from Big Hero 6 are consuming his body, all is left is his eyes, so that the very last thing he sees is this star base, this space station where everybody loves each other, where everybody is at peace with each other, the antithesis of what he believes in, the thing that he hates most, peace, this representation of peace, and he has to look at it as he dies.
Although maybe his brain wasn't even working by the time it was just his eyes left.
Let me have my moment, okay? Let me have my moment. So everything's all good and hunky-dory, and we have our birthday for Captain Kirk, where he feels old again. Wait a minute. I thought his age problems were in the second movie of the previous franchise. Instead, they decided to wait off till this movie to explore his mortality. I see what you're doing. You're realizing that you don't need to mirror things exactly. You can mix things up a little bit. Take some from one movie and sprinkle it in a different movie, and takes one from the previous movie and sprinkle it up in a little earlier movie. I see what you're doing. You're mixing up a little bit, keeping things spicy. And so you have the traditional ending that you always have, that's been a staple in Star Trek, which is circling around the new SS Enterprise, where one of the characters recites the classic Star Trek speech about, boldly going where no person gone before and all that jazz. But this time, it's not one person. No, because Kirk realized, you know what? I'm not going to be a hog and hog up this monologue. No, I'm going to let everyone in on this. Everyone gets to say something. Even Chekhov, he gets to say something. Even Chekhov. And so when this happens, they go back to their 5-year mission, continuing to utilize the original concept of the show.
Wait a minute. Hold up. Back up. There's a new Enterprise? Fully recreated?
Yeah, and they spent no time on that. They just made it all willy-nilly, just fast as all hell through the power of fast-forwarding the movie.
Oh, great. They did the same thing that they did last movie, where they take this huge big problem that happened in the previous franchise that was not resolved until the next movie, and they decided, no, let's just resolve it in this movie.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's what Into Darkness did as well, where they took the death of a beloved crew member, which also happened in Wrath of Khan, and they decided, you know what? Instead of resolving that problem in the next movie, let's just resolve it quickly at the end of this movie and bring back to life Kirk. And that's what this movie does as well, because this movie takes a huge, big, tragic incident that happened in the previous franchise, and in this case, it's the destruction of the Enterprise, and they decided, you know what, instead of waiting till the next movie to resolve this like that previous franchise did, let's just go ahead and do it already in this movie.
I know! They can't just keep doing that!
But to be fair, though, the reason why they probably do that is because they want to avoid full-on rehashing of the previous franchise. They want to mirror some aspects, such as one of the crew members dying and the ship getting destroyed, but they don't want to fully repeat it all together and have those cliffhangers resolved in the next movie, because that would be too much like the previous franchise. So instead they just get the resolution over with by the end of the movie so that they can do something else with the next movie, so that they don't have to do too much of the parallels and instead do more original stuff, but still having those parallels there still, because they still want to honor what came before without rehashing it too much. And they learned from Into Darkness. They learned that they don't need to do that so much. They can do that to a degree. And this movie was the establishment of that successfully, that they can still make homages, but not make it too much of a rehash. And that's what this movie is at its core, to a T. And I don't mind if they keep doing that for future films, as long as they know where to stop the parallels and where to begin the new ideas. And we've already got evidence of this, because there's already been confirmation on what's going to go on in the fourth of this revamp series. Chris Hemsworth has been confirmed to reprise his role.
But wait a minute, he played Kirk's father, and in this timeline, Kirk's father is dead.
Yes, so that could mean time travel. And do you know what other Star Trek movie had time travel?
The Voyage Home.
Yes, the fourth movie in the original franchise. And so for the fourth movie of this franchise, what they're mirroring is the use of time travel again, but this time around it won't be to 1984, or even the time that the movie would have come out then, which probably would be like, I don't know, 2020, 2019, to 2020. Oh good, I have clear eyesight. No, it wouldn't be then. No. The original stuff they would do would instead have them time travel back to when Kirk's father was still alive.
Yeah, but there could be other ways of bringing back that character.
Hopefully it's not through flashback, because then why even make that a big deal right now that you're bringing back that character just for a flashback?
Maybe it could be that they're traveling to the original universe. The universe where he would still be alive.
Oh, that could be what they're doing. Oh, that could be interesting if they do it that way. Ooh. Chris would probably have to put on some makeup though, make him look all middle-aged and shit. But yeah, that could be interesting, And if they do it that way, then it's fine, maybe instead of continuing these mirrorings and only doing homages without going too similar, maybe instead of that they could just make the mirrorings like less and less blatant to the point where they don't even have to do them anymore. They don't even have to rely on that anymore. They could just keep going their different direction.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be the case if they full-on redid the other series and actually do Next Generation. If they do that, then they're definitely doing a hell of a parallel, because with that, it's a whole goddamn show that they're redoing in this new timeline.
Yeah, but I'd cut some slack there, you know. Who doesn't want to see that generation?
Lots of Trekkies, probably.
Yeah, but I'm not one of them. Bring on new Picard and new Data. Hell, they could even have Tom Hardy as Picard. You know, not only for continuity, since he played young Picard in Nemesis, Picard's clone, but also because he's a big name. He happened to become a big name since then. So bring it on in 5 or 7 years or long-ass time. I don't know. We're not sure if this lineup is going to keep going for another movie after the 4th film. All we know is that they're going for a 4th film, but who knows what's going to happen after that. Either a 5th film with this crew, or hopefully Next Generation. We'll see about that. We'll see. But I do strongly believe that Next Generation is inevitable. I do think that's going to happen sooner or later.
It's still a little disappointing that we didn't get what could have been.
Yeah, there were plans of having Prime Kirk and Prime Spock and having their future selves show up, and even though it is kind of sad that we don't get to see that now, I do feel like it was more important to have a good old-fashioned Planet Discovery storyline. You know, just go back to the roots of Star Trek instead of dedicating yourselves to fan service. That would have been. That would have been fan service if they did that. And even though these small hints of what's to come for Star Trek 4 do point at a possibility at that, I am happy that before we got that, we took some time away from that and instead dedicated ourselves to a good old-fashioned Star Trek type story before we get to that fan service again. And even before we get to that fan service, I do trust this series to not go all out on that to the point where the story suffers. I do trust them to hold themselves back and just do a little bit of it. You know, a little bit of it goes a long way. And this movie even decides to pay tribute to what could have been by showing a picture of the original crew. And I can understand why they have a picture of the later years, where they were elderly, because if they showed a picture of them like in the time period that they're in right now, then Spock looking at that picture would have been all like, wait a minute, they don't look like us, they look like different people. What the hell? Alright, so now that we're done with all that, now let's take some time to rate the film. Dark Overlord, do you think that people should either watch this film or get attacked by a bunch of creatures that look like they're big and giant but turn out to actually be teeny tiny small, but one of them decides to mellow out and is invited to Kirk's birthday and wears a shirt now?
I just watched the movie, you know. I had a fun time, and I think the main thing that this movie has going for it is that they struck a balance between making things updated and hip and now and modern, but also at the same time honoring what the show previously was back in the 60s by going full out and probably bringing this franchise the most to the 1960s roots this reboot series has ever been.
Yeah, you're right. This is the closest this revamp series has ever been to utilizing the classic look and feel of the 1960s show, because their uniforms no longer have that texture that they had in the other two films, where it seemed like they were trying to make it all modern by giving their shirts all these textures and patterns and stuff. Whereas in this movie, it's all solid. It's like a full-on sweater now, like how it used to be in the 60s.
So I guess you prefer to watch the movie too, huh?
Yes, I would prefer to watch this movie than dealing with those aliens, whom, by the way, were the butt of a joke that's been done 100,000 times before, where you see this alien race that you think is huge or normal size, and it turns out they're actually teeny tiny small.
Wait a minute, I thought you were hoping that Star Wars would use that joke.
Yeah, there was precedent for that, because you had Emperor Snook, who was like this big giant hologram, so I was hoping that the payoff for that was that it turns out he's teeny tiny this whole time, but now they can't do that, because Star Trek beat them to it. I bet they thought, hey, you stole our director, so we're gonna steal your potential joke about an alien reveal.
He's still producer.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Seeing the same logo for both a Star Trek film and a Star Wars film. I bet that bad robot is really smug right now. Like, yeah, I've got both Star Trek and Star Wars as my bitches. I'm gonna have a three-way with 3PO and Data. 3PO way!
So that's it then. That's the review, huh?
Yeah, and it's actually quite shocking. Like, wow, I think this is the first time you and I have ever had a review where you were actually positive about the film. And not only were you positive, but also you were making sense. Because usually when you hate on a film, you're doing it irrationally. You're just doing it to be a dickhole. But this time, you actually had a lot to say about the movie. And you were negative at times, but this time around it was actually because you had legitimate things to say, instead of being a dickhead.
Maybe it's because deep in my mind I really do feel like this could be the end of the universe. And if it is, maybe we should have a really good review, the last one. Maybe that's why I felt like I shouldn't be a dickhead this time around.
Wow, that's really nice of you. Oh man, this is reigniting my faith for all of existence. That we can be united, just like how the Star Trek nations are united, through peace. And the way we are united is through talking about movies.
Graviton, me and the search parties have returned, and we have brought a few more reinforcements. Now comes the point where we need to plan our attacks.
Wait just 1 minute, Papa Midnight. What if we don't need to attack Amanda Waller? What if there's a better way? I mean, look at me and Dark Overlord. We're best of buddies now. We no longer hate each other as all hell.
Yeah, you're okay, Gravy. Still an asshole every now and then, but you're a lovable asshole.
See, he called me a lovable asshole. Maybe there's hope for Amanda. I just need to make peace with her the way I did with Dark Overlord. Through talking about movies. I know there's a good chance that it could work.
This is a big gamble, Graviton. But since we've already been making big gambles by talking to demons, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. The aliens have pinpointed the location of Amanda Waller. We'll give you a little bit of time to go to that location and see if you can talk some sense into her. That's all I ask for, Papa Midnight. Thank you. So, where is this location? It is Warner Brothers Studios.
Well, that's gonna be a difficult place for me to go to, considering I'm not only a Marvel character, but also technically a Disney character, but I know it's worth doing.
Now's the chance. But if we don't hear from you within 48 hours, we are gonna go on with our plans. Do I make myself clear?
Crystal clear, Papa Midnight. I am off to make the negotiation of a lifetime.
So, you really think he has a shot at talking some sense into Amanda Waller?
Actually, I'm already looking into a backup. After all, he's not the only remaining villain vlogger out there that we need to rely on to keep the purpose of this universe going. There is another